All right, so we're back up and running. Sorry about that. We're having some problems streaming. I think, I don't know, something happened. Anyways, kind of back to the story at hand as we're going forward here. Zillow has tapped into artificial intelligence to improve their home value estimates. As we talked about before, why would they improve on what's already perfect, the Zestimate? Well, the answer is very simple because now Zillow is going to be using their Zestimate to make money. And whenever somebody puts their money up in front of something, it's certainly going to make you a little bit more concerned about what you're paying for it, isn't it? Stories of people getting cash offers for their homes, tens of thousands of dollars over asking price, have become norms this year. Inventory of the United States housing market has hit a record low, while home prices hit a record high. Redfin, this is according to Glenn Kelman, the Redfin CEO. The owners of about 900,000 properties were initially eligible to receive automatic cash offers to purchase a home. This is according to Zillow Chief Analytics Officer Stan Humphreys. He said that the change to the artificial intelligence, here's the key, guys, the change to the artificial intelligence is going to expand the pool by 30% of folks who can now get a cash offer on their house. A company spokesman said Zillow's offers can close sales in as little as 1 week. All right, so basically what's going to happen is your Zestimate's going to be an offer to purchase that house. Do you guys understand that? So now you're going to be able to go onto Zillow and you're going to be able to go there and put in the Zestimate and see what you think about the whole thing to see if it's going to be a good deal for you. Now, Zillow would have you believe that this is going to be a better and more accurate version of a Zestimate, because a Zestimate is just that. A Zestimate is going to be an opinion of value, but they're saying that the new version with the artificial intelligence is going to be more accurate because it actually comes with an offer that you could go ahead and either take or not. So it becomes an actual offer on top of just an estimation of value. Therefore, it's more accurate. And if you believe that, it's absolute, it's hogwash and it's ridiculous because we haven't had a chance to really think this thing through. So let's think about this for a second. So Zillow has a model where they have to buy low and sell high. Okay, they have to make their money somehow, don't they? They're either going to make it on the offer of the property by putting in a lower than norm offer on said property, or they're going to get it in the form of fees. Those are the only, or actually, there's a third way they could actually do that right now, which is going to be market appreciation. So if you are the CEO of Zillow and you have your fiduciary, your legal and moral obligation to your shareholders to make as much money as safely and humanly as possible, which vertical are you going to use to make money? And I think the answer is fairly clear. It's fairly self-evident, isn't it? You're going to use all three. After all, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you use all three? So they're going to make it through fees, which they do, 7.5%, on top of fees with names that we've never heard of before, that we have documented to nauseum for years now. They're going to get it through market appreciation with a market that continues to go up. And of course, they're going to mitigate risk by handing off risk to these sellers of these properties. And they're going to do that through the form of a lower offer. After all right, so Zillow is going to have a bandwidth issue. So the Zestimates now are going to be, think this through, Zestimates are now going to be offers to purchase your house where they're claiming right now as we sit here today that they can close in as little as a week. There is going to be bandwidth issues. How many houses can they buy at any given time? Are there any inspections on these properties in order to, once again, further mitigating risk? And the answer is going to have to be yes, but they're talking about really fast turn times, so that's going to create bandwidth issues. Now, if I have a bandwidth issue, how do I control my bandwidth? Well, here's how mortgage companies do it. If they're writing more loans than they have the capability of writing, they raise their interest rates. And by raising their interest rates, they make it harder for their loan officers to sell mortgages, and then their volume goes down, but their profits go up. We control the faucet on the mortgage space by calibrating interest rates either going up or down. On the flip side of that, like we're seeing right now with margin compression, if you're trying to pick up margin share, then you drop your interest rates to try to make it a land grab approach to closing more deals. It's the same thing with Zillow. There's not a whole bunch of stuff you can do. So if they're going to have a bandwidth issue on day one, what are they going to do? They're simply going to calibrate the offers that they're going to take by lowballing Zestimates. The new Zestimate is no longer an estimate of value. The new Zestimate is going to be an offer to purchase. And if I have 1,000 people who want to sell to me, but I can only buy 100 houses, I'm going to buy the 100 houses that are going to net me the greatest proceeds. This is 101, people. And of course they're going to do this, because anything short of lowballing these offers would be the brain trust in the board at Zillow not fulfilling their legal obligation to their shareholders. So yeah, the new Zestimate, the artificial intelligence Zestimate, I'm assuming, again, this is just an assumption here, is going to take into consideration different market conditions for different areas. And it's going to put an offer in that is going to transfer much of the risk of these offers over under the shoulder of the sellers, because after all, they have a bandwidth issue and they're not going to be able to afford to buy all of them. Why wouldn't you do this? And the answer is, well, of course they're going to do this, and that's exactly what it is. But I just love the spin on this stuff, and people talk about this like, well, now we're going to get a better Zestimate. No, you're not. It serves a different function than it did just a few months ago. Now for loan officers, I got a couple of things for you that I thought was, boy, this one's for loan officers out there right now. You really need to pay attention, because this was just fallen from the heavens and given to us. Think about this. Homeowners gained, on average, $26,300 in equity for the year 2020. By the way, that's a lot of equity so far. That's for the first half of this year, which means over the course of the year, they're probably going to be sitting there somewhere around $40,000 in equity. That equates to an average gain in home equity of $26,300 over the past year. Okay, excuse me, the past 12 months. $26,300 over the past 12 months. That's a lot of equity. Now, what do we know about ourselves? We're consumers, aren't we? We are big-time consumers. And check this out. According to the Experian 2020 Stats of Credit report, the average Gen X consumer has about $32,878 in non-mortgage related debt, such as credit cards, student loans, car loans, and or personal loans. Gotta love this country that's full of so much conspicuous consumption, don't you? You just gotta love it. You gotta love it, because when people spend money, I mean, why did the economy not tank? Like, we just literally sent everybody home for a year and the economy didn't absolutely blow up in our face. Why is that? Because we printed $7 trillion and gave it to people for the purposes of conspicuous consumption. We did. Buying TVs, computers, video game consoles, entertainment centers, wave runners, Sea-Doos. Hell, I did this in my office. A kid who I work with, he bought a car. I guess good for him in that sense. But it was all of that money that was infused into the economy through us consumers, because one thing Uncle Sam knows is we will spend our money. You give it to us and we'll spend it. So it's kind of interesting if you think about this, though, guys, because what we're seeing here is the amount of debt your average Gen X homeowner has is about the same amount as their property went up in value over the past year. In short, our conspicuous consumption is tracking our equity buildup almost dollar for dollar. But what you have to do is you have to take all that high rate revolving junk debt that they have, that $32,000 or whatever the hell it was, and we need to roll that into their $26,300 in equity that everybody has on their house. There's a good chance that you're going to be able to take all of this stuff and put it into a rate and term refinance. Get rid of that car loan, get rid of those credit cards, get rid of those student loans. Who knows? I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to be forgiving student loans before this whole stupid thing's all said and done anyways. God forbid kids have to pay for their student loans today like we did when we were younger. And I don't want to hear it. I had $50,000 in the 90s on student loans, and I had to pay every penny of that stuff off. The point is this, and it's very simple. You guys have an opportunity right now to do rate and term cash out refinances, debt consolidation refinances, and you really should be looking at these things. Remember that 40% of all loans right now still have an interest rate over 4%. We haven't even begun to warm up with all the refinances we can do. And now that everybody's coming out of lockdown, what are we doing? We are spending money like we actually have it, and we don't. Did you know, Kian, that you can finance a mattress?
Yeah. Zero interest.
Zero interest?
Yeah.
Can you believe you can finance a mattress? I don't.
You can buy it on an app on your phone and no payments for 6 months.
What are you thinking? I don't know. Anyways, but we are a country of consumers. The person who probably benefits more from our consumption and more from that $7 trillion bailout, one person single-handedly, is Jeff Bezos. Right? Jeff Bezos. By the way, that gal who he married, so he got rid of that like kind-looking, decent woman for like, oh my God.
Sultry actress.
Yeah, some sultry actress who looks like she's on like some like really tacky, horrible soap opera. It's like, which I'm sure, it's like, whoa.
Love Island.
Exactly. But here's how rich Jeff Bezos is, Ken. He gave away half of his money to his ex, and he's once again the richest guy in the world.
And she's now one of the most attractive women walking this planet.
Her and you know who else is? Have you ever seen those documentaries on the gal who owns In-N-Out Burger?
Mm-hmm.
So she's a really attractive gal. Here's a story. So they're not a corporation. So when her dad or her grandpa died, the person who was running In-N-Out just made an assumption that he was essentially going to be the de facto owner of In-N-Out Burger. And this young 20-something-year-old, kind of hot-to-trot gal down in Southern California said, "No, you're not. This is my company, not yours." The thing is, she didn't know anything about running a restaurant, let alone a successful chain like In-N-Out Burger. Well, she went in there, and remember when we started seeing like 2 decades ago In-N-Out Burger coming up to Northern California and starting to go to other states? That was all her. She's the one this young girl's the one who did it. So now she's like in her 40s, right? She has bodyguards because she's had like 4 abduction attempts on her life. People want to abduct her and hold her for ransom because she's worth a fortune selling, $3 hamburgers.
Well,
I don't know why we're talking about that, but The point is this: Jeff Bezos has singularly benefited more from the COVID and the lockdown that we had more so than any other individual or any other company combined. I can't even. I'll bet you Amazon has made more money than its top 10 competitors in any field when it comes down to this last year. $7 trillion. How much money do you think ended up in the coffers over at Amazon? I bet a whole bunch of it.
It's gonna put them in outer space.
Well, here's my thing. 2 things. First, I've said this before. Amazon's big when you Google Amazon and you don't see any pictures of rainforests. All you see are those little trucks and that smiley thing. But yeah, here's the great part. So Jeff Bezos, he's going into outer space with his brother. And right now there's a petition with over 60,000 signatures on it saying, all right, when he tries to re-enter the atmosphere, don't let him.
Tax him. Charge him 30% tax.
Put him in one of Elon's cars and send his ass to Mars.
I also heard they're trying to get him to, it's the Mona Lisa challenge. They're trying to get him to buy the Mona Lisa and eat it.
I don't know if the Louvre would sell it. But the point is, all this conspicuous consumption that we have here, guys, with the amount of debt that we're carrying, in spite of the fact that we were all just given a whole bunch of money, and with the amount of equity that we've gained over the past year, that's made Bezos a whole bunch of money. There's really great opportunity in this stuff. So I hope you guys really look at it and just check it out because they're listen, you know what? Everyone needs to kind of have like a little bit of a shtick. Like when you wake up in the morning, you have to figure out, what am I going to try to accomplish professionally? Yeah, you got to have an idea. Even if it's like not a well thought out idea, have an idea that you can execute, where you're calling people, where you're putting together flyers, where you're jumping on, you're doing lives, where you're speaking with realtors, when you're you got to have a plan, right?
Here's a good plan.
Let's hear it.
The owner of In-N-Out Burger.
Uh-huh.
She's been married 4 times.
Has she really?
Yes. She's currently on her 4th marriage.
Really?
Yeah. 3.9 billion.
That's the problem.
There's a plan. Get a plan. Number 5's right around the corner.
Number five's a charm. She's been married 4 times.
Yeah.
See, all them guys are all a bunch of gold diggers.
Yeah.
And they don't like the fact that they got this strong wife who's worth a shit ton of money and she doesn't need them for nothing.
Yep.
Insecurities too. Guys being insecure. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? 5's the charm though, right?
She trades in. She drives a new husband every 3 to 4 years.
She treats her husbands like leases. You know, you ride them for 3 years and then you turn them in for a better model. I'll tell you what, In-N-Out burgers are good though. Here's a real interesting one for you guys if you haven't seen this one before. Frank or Kean, listen to this one. Around a third or 32% of Americans say that they have become more disciplined with their money since the whole COVID thing came down. This is according to Northwest Mutual's recent 2021 Planning and Progress survey, and 95% expect to keep it that way. All right. So over the past year, when you couldn't go out to eat, when you couldn't go out shopping, only a third of people said that they were more disciplined with their spending habits.
Because they were drinking more. They needed to fucking manage their booze.
Do you think it was all booze consumption?
Well, big consideration.
All right, think of how much a bottle of whiskey costs from Costco versus how much a shot of whiskey costs from a restaurant. Do you know how many bottles of whiskey you'd have to drink from Costco to like have those two like match up?
Right.
I just find that a trip that here's what I'm thinking. I think what a lot of people did when they were bored, I think you're right. I think they got hopped up on the liquor. And then I think they jumped online, they hopped on the Amazon. And then they had that really cool thing where it says all you need is a single click to purchase this.
Buy now.
Yeah, buy now. You know, you have a couple of double shots and, you know, all of a sudden shit starts looking way more interesting to buy than it did, you know, before you had those shots.
And it makes a shit ton of sense too at that time.
But don't you find it shocking that only a third of the people actually feel that they were better with their spending habits? I just thought I thought you would at least have enough self-respect to lie and say you did better.
Admitted boredom. I've been so bored. I'm drinking
All right.
more, buying more.
Let me ask you this: do you ever board shop?
No.
Oh God, you don't ever go to the grocery store and like you're bored and you go shop? Board spending?
Never.
Oh man, I'll go to Winco and I don't know. I guess I needed that hummus. But here's the part.
6 flavors. All 6.
I got bitchin' sauce. I got the hummus sauce. I got the pesto sauce. I got the salsa sauce. Both the green and the red. Okay.
Street corn.
But think about this, though. So now listen, here's the part that really kind of catches. This is how you have to really look at articles critically to find out what's really going on. So a third of Americans say that they've been more disciplined since not being able to spend money with spending money. That right there is a funny statement. But 95% said they expect to keep it that way. Okay? That means 5% of the people who said they're more responsible with spending their money are like, nope, as soon as possible, I'm going to go back to pissing away every cent I got. 95% said they want to keep it that way. 5% said we like the conspicuous consumption and going out and doing that stuff. And I'll tell you, I think there's a lot of that 5%. I mean, I like going out to eat. You like going out to eat.
Keep it going as long as the stimulus checks keep coming in. As soon as that dries up, they're going to change their tune.
Did you notice that, by the way, that Gavin Newsom here in California he's kind of doing his bid for not getting recalled, and he's already talking about his next round of handouts. Did you see that?
No.
All Americans are getting another $1,400. All Americans have this coming to them. All Americans are having free child care for this. All Americans are, you haven't seen that?
We don't get any of it anyways. So
It's just interesting to see that your campaign that you're running on is, I'll just give you money. I'm not even going to ask you to do shit anymore. Just take the money. It's a trip. All right, here's my last point that we're going to get across today, and I appreciate you guys sticking around here. Denial rates for home purchases. This is with your GSEs, your government-sponsored enterprises. Let me see if I can make this a little bit smaller for you. And there is a point that I want to get to with this. All right. So we just talked about our liquidity index, the amount of cash that's available, how difficult it is or how easy it is for a consumer to gain access to borrowing somebody else's money. According to the Mortgage Bankers Association, that number is lower now than it essentially has ever been. And that stands to reason, as we've talked about before, because all the refinances that everybody did, were your standard fare meat and potato 30-year fixed rate mortgages with people who had 40% equity, loan to values that were next to nothing, and $100,000 in the bank. In other words, the loans that Fannie and Freddie insured or purchased were by extension from lenders who lent on this money the only things that they could get their hand on, and it was the cleanest of the clean loans. Now, there is an unintended consequence for doing these type of things. When you only write the cleanest of the clean loans, remember what I told you about Zillow just a moment ago? If I can buy 100 houses, but 1,000 avail themselves to me, I'm going to buy the 100 that are going to make the most money for me if I'm Zillow. That makes perfect sense. Similarly, in 2020, lenders only had so much bandwidth to write loans. So if I can only write 100 loans, I'm going to write the 100 cleanest loans that have the least amount of possibility of me having to purchase those back. One where the ATR is a foregone conclusion, where everything is a qualified mortgage, where my loan to value is super low, where my debt to income ratios are near non-existent, and where I've got massive cash reserves on a house that's going to get an appraisal waiver. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. Now, because mortgage companies are the ones who actually write these loans, well, it really kind of pigeonholes Fannie and Freddie from fulfilling their charter, because they can't buy loans that lenders aren't writing and funding. If they don't write them and fund them, they don't exist. And Fannie and Freddie fail at their charter, Fannie Mae's 80-plus year charter, which is to provide affordable housing to the masses. Well, that's clearly not happening, and right now we have evidence that we're going actually in the wrong direction. Imagine that. So you can see here with Black African-American applicants in 2019, we were denying loans at a rate of about 16%. Then in 2020, you can see that number, with one eye shut, there's about 17%. And that percentage to a percentage and a half, one, it represents a huge number of people. It's a lot of people who are simply being denied housing. And but more importantly, it is us certainly going in the wrong direction with the charter of the GSEs. Hispanics the same way. We're declining loans at a rate of about 11%, and in 2019 and in 2020 it's up to about 12%. Asian Americans, the same thing. We're denying loans at a rate of about 8.5%. That got up to 9%. And white applicants, boy, there's the irony, isn't there? Pegging about the exact same thing from 2019 to 2020. Is there built-in systemic racism in these numbers? I don't want to get into it, but it is a little bit glaring here when you look at these, four groups: African Americans, Hispanic, Asian Americans, and whites. The only ones who are pegging exactly the same are going to be your white applicants, which is we're turning down at a rate of about 6%, which is lower than Asians, Hispanics, or blacks. There's a lot of factors and variables that play into this. There's credit scores, there's employment figures, there is being or being underemployed, which are usually higher for minority classes. There's a lot of stuff that plays into this, but this right here is something of a problem. And the big thing is as we work harder to address the issues of the disparity in homeownership rates amongst people of different ethnic groups, we're going in the wrong direction. So the policies that are in place right now, they ain't working. There's something else that needs to take place there. And that should be something of consideration for, all of us. If we're stewards of this industry, we want to make sure that we're doing a great job for everybody. And right now, it's very, very apparent that we're not doing that. Dave says, what percentage of the 60,000 people who signed that petition are actual employees of Amazon? Probably all of them. What's up, Kai? How we doing there, Josh? You can finance anything these days. You're right. Arizona demand is off the charts. My clients just paid $100,000 over the list price to buy a home. That's from Annie. Yeah, it's some nutty stuff here, guys. It's some absolutely nutty stuff here. I did see a thing today that I thought was interesting. There was an article, and again, we're getting in the weeds on this, so I'll let you guys go. But so there is an algorithm that Amazon puts together for their drivers. So when they go make their runs, they're taking the most efficient ways on their runs in order to drop their packages off as quick as possible, use the least amount of gas. It's all good stuff, right? Well, the problem is that they're usually directional. So oftentimes what's happening is the Amazon algorithm is having drivers stop on one side of a road, and then have to cross 3-4 lane highways of traffic going 50, 60 miles an hour with packages to drop off. Because when you hang a U-turn, you screw up the Amazon algorithm. So what you have is you have these people taking their lives in their own hands. And and one last point here, what I don't understand is how is it having 50 billion giant trucks driving nonstop around this country, packaging things at locations and shipping them all over hell and gone, how is that still cheaper than having a central location where I can buy something in my own community? It just seems to me that going to a Target would still be a more efficient way for me to take my car down to a central location, rather than have these centralized locations shipping everything out to all of us, where you actually have to pay those drivers. I mean, when we reverse this thing, when I go to the store, I'm like a driver for Amazon, except they don't have to pay me or insure me. They don't have to pay for my gas. They don't have to buy my car. I'm taking my own insurance, my own gas, my own self, on my own dime down to your supercenter to pick up stuff so you don't have to do it. You don't have to package it. You don't have to put stamps on it. It is very, very peculiar to me how that model makes money. But then again, I'm not supposed to understand everything in the world. Hey, listen, guys, if you like our show, what we're doing here, just hit that share button. Today was a little bifurcated because we had some issues in terms of our streaming. I think we've got that dealt with. We'll be back with you tomorrow with some really fantastic information. I hope this was helpful to everybody. I always appreciate when I get your time. Hit that share button. That's always super, super cool. And with that said, I will talk with you guys tomorrow here on the Frank Ray and Brian Stevens Show, part of the National Real Estate Post and Mortgage Shots. Ciao, man. Later. Now is the fun, awkward part. How do I shut this damn thing down? Where are you? Oh, you're way down here.